Welcome guys to the next installment in the Options Greeks tutorial series. Today we are going to discuss gamma. Gamma, simply put, is how much the delta changes based on the movement in the underlying price. To understand it all intuitively, let's begin with the graph of how much the option value moves with the movement in the underlying price. Now this dotted line is what the option value is on expiration. You can say the option is worthless below the strike price, and then it moves higher linearly above the strike price with the movement in underlying price. However, before expiration, the curve looks something like this. You do not have this abrupt change on exercise price. You have this slight movement. As we go farther in the money, the call option value moves 1-to-1 with the underlying price. As we go far out the money, the option value is not really correlated with the underlying price. So for delta hedged portfolios, which is what market makers have, they don't want a small movement in price to screw up with their portfolios. However, if there's a large movement in price, then the delta is going to move significantly, right? It's going from 0 to almost 1 as we go from lower underlying prices to higher underlying prices. So for a large movement in price, the delta is going to move significantly, in which case they need to start to worry about the change in delta with the movement in the underlying price. For small movements, it doesn't matter. But for larger movements, if you want to keep your portfolio delta hedged means movement in the underlying doesn't affect your portfolio value, then you need to start to worry about the rate of change of delta with the movement in underlying prices. And that's where gamma comes in. So delta was the slope of this curve, right? The option value is the underlying price. Delta is almost 0. As we go far out the money, it's almost 1 as we go far in the money. This is the graph on delta, which we saw in our delta video for options Greeks. So heading towards 0 as we go far out the money, heading towards 1 as we go in the money. Gamma is the slope of this curve. So you can see, since the slope of this curve is 0, heading towards 0 in far in the money and heading towards 0 in far out the money options, and the slope is the highest at the money. So your gamma, which is the slope, will be highest near at the money options, and it declines as it goes farther in the money and farther out the money. How does gamma change with expiration date? So in the first graph, we saw that on expiration date, you have a slope of 0, and then you have a slope of 1, and then there's this abrupt change. However, as we go farther from expiration, there's this slight, like a smooth movement from smaller prices to higher prices. As we go farther out the money, this curve will be even more gentle. So as we get closer and closer to expiration, your gamma is not as smooth. You can see there's this big jump, all right, like high gamma prices near at the money options, and for out the money as well as in the money options, the gamma prices are quite low. Now, the final thing, which is the most covered in media and almost everybody has heard of, is gamma squeezes. What does that mean? So let's try and explain it in simple language. I don't think you really need to go that much into the details. When you go long an option, the market makers take the other side of that position. So they're short the option. Now, in order to hedge themselves, what they will do is, if they're short the option, they will buy the underlying stock. So if you bought a call and a market maker goes short on that call, then he will buy stock in order to hedge his position. So what happened? Based on your buying of the option, the market makers have to buy the stock price. And that's just so that they can hedge themselves. Now, if a lot of people bought call options, then market makers will have to buy the stock, and the stock price will go up, which will make other people buy call options, and this loop can get out of hand. The reason it matters is because when we get closer and closer to expiration, delta can change fast. As we saw in the first video, it can go from 0 to 1 near expiration quite quickly. So in order to hedge for delta neutrality, the market makers have to hedge very quickly, and that can lead to outsized movements, where a small group of people buying certain options increases the price of the stock because the market makers need to hedge, which in turn leads to people buying more call options, which leads to increase in stock price even more. And you can see these abrupt movements, which is what we call gamma squeezes. Now, that happened with Tesla a few times in 2021. It happened with GME, as you guys already know. And that's where the big gamma position for at the money options near expiration plays a role. That's the simple, I guess, coverage of gamma. You can obviously go in a lot more detail. Gamma is quite complex and is used quite a bit, but I don't think that's to our needs for now. If you have any other questions, you can ask me in the chats about it.